welcome to another edition of Flashback to the Track.
Presented by blue-emu, a product with such maximum relief deserves maximum exposure.
As always, I'm your host, James, but that's not Mark. No, that is actually definitely not Mark. That's my girlfriend, Kaylynn. Kaylynn, hi.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Yeah?
Yeah, I feel like an honored guest.
Oh, you should, because, this is like guest week. It's like, we do a rotation, and this is the week where we have a guest, and you're the guest now, so.
Wow.
Yes. Yes, guest. So, you're the guest this week, because we're going to talk about the last race we went to, actually, was last year. So, we went to a race, but it was your first race, actually. So, technically, we took you to your first race.
Well, I don't know. I think I went to a race when I was really young. I remember going to Daytona at some point, but it's so fuzzy that this might as well have been my first race. So yeah. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, like, when you went to Daytona, do you remember, like, there being cars? Or do you, like, was it, like, first an event, or?
I mean, there were cars, because I remember wearing earplugs, but other than that, I don't remember much. So, sorry.
It's okay.
I have no idea. It was probably early, maybe in the 90s. I don't even know.
Ooh.
It could have been.
That's when, like, people said NASCAR was good. I wouldn't know, because I was just a child. So, I mean, I was watching, but I wasn't physically there. Mm-hmm. The cigarette scene was heavy back then. But we went. It wasn't the 90s. It was present day. So, and you're an adult. So,
I mean, it was 2019, which is practically a lifetime ago at this point.
yeah, that was forever ago. I totally forgot my license got suspended in like April, and that was April. Mm-hmm. So, but at this point, yeah, with like everything that's going on in the pandemic, it's something that fans haven't really had a chance to take in this year, because, I mean, I believe around race 5, basically, they had the whole shutdown. So fans haven't had the same access at the tracks, being able to go to the midway and have pre-race events, or even go to the companion races, because a lot of weekends, if fans are allowed, normally it's just for the cup race. So, it's kind of interesting to kind of think about and look back towards this last race, because yeah, it's like last year, but technically, towards the end of the year, there were like a few races left. So this was one of the few opportunities, or most recent opportunities, like fans had to go to a track, if you think about it. So maybe they can, I don't know, reminisce too if they were there. But we're from Florida. You've been to Daytona. And obviously the most cliche thing to do is to go to Daytona, which we totally didn't do.
Yeah.
That was like, nah, it's kind of silly and pointless. So we went to Charlotte, and we didn't go to the Oval. We actually went to go see the Roval event. So that was a really random and spontaneous decision too, because like we were in Tennessee at first, in Nashville, on your paid leave vacation time. So this was a trip that you had really planned, and then we were going across the South. So we went from Nashville, we went to Alabama, I believe Montgomery.
No, it was some random town in Alabama. It was like the Nashville part was like the city getaway, and then the Alabama part was like a really rural getaway. So rural. I was so rural that I don't remember where it was.
The best thing we do remember was the Airbnb, and I don't remember the gentleman's name who was
Bill.
Bill, okay.
Yes. Bill was this lovely one-armed pottery maker, and he was so nice, and he was like this very old gentleman, lots of Southern hospitality, of course, and he owned a pottery shop, which was like kind of connected to the Airbnb. Super cute. He also had a cat named Mr. Clay, who I remember very well. And it was just so strange, but like quaint and charming. So really great Airbnb. Shout out to Bill.
Yeah, he had a lot of great pottery. He sold us on some pretty expensive pieces.
Yeah.
That Airbnb though was, for like being in the middle of nowhere, it was so modern and like posh and like fabulous.
That was cute.
Yeah, that was probably like the nicest Airbnb I think I've ever stayed in, and just very out of place because like in the middle of the woods in this cabin, and you had this like, I don't know, felt like a $10,000 mattress we were sleeping on or something.
Yeah, that was
Jeez.
like the mattress in my dreams, and I think about it
all the
sometimes.
throw pillows, and then
Yeah.
like all the decorations inside of the Airbnb were actually sold in the pottery shop.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like technically just, you know, advertisement and try before you buy with a couple of products.
Yeah, you got that microwavable bacon piece.
Yes.
That you drape bacon across, put it in the microwave, and it's supposed to like catch the grease. I don't think we have even used it
No.
at all.
When I last went to the apartment, I actually did unpack it, so it's unpacked at least. Other than that though, we were planning on just coming back home after Alabama. And then I had looked basically at our itinerary because you planned to get back a day early just to play it safe. And I looked and I saw that the NASCAR race was at the Roval. And I thought, well, you know, if we're really experiencing the whole South, you know, why don't we go to the Carolinas? You should drive up through there, go through the mountain ranges, and kind of see a little more of the country. So the NASCAR race was just like a low key like win.
Yeah.
But
I think it's funny because, you know, you usually humor me whenever I, you know, get my paid time off and I'm like, okay, I want to go somewhere and do something. And you're, you know, always pretty down to go wherever. But I always feel like you try to sneak in some sort of motorsports related thing in there. Just because, I mean, that's what you're interested in, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's like, you're trying to have a fun time too, so I don't mind, you know?
Yeah, but like this is different than like going to, you know, Dirtfish Rally School or something like that, where it's like something engaging and something I can enjoy, because I don't like going to races as a fan.
Yeah, that's true.
I no offense to fans, it's just once you've worked in the industry and you get to understand the mechanics and everything, I just don't like going as a fan. It just doesn't thrill me, you know, as much as, you know, working. Now going with you is different because we're having an experience together. So that's kind of what pushed me to actually want to go. Because normally I would have just been like, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't need to go. I've been to a few races as a fan. It's pretty enjoyable. You know, maybe if I get invited as a guest, that would be nice. But normally I just would like to work. But you know, it was a good opportunity for A, to work in that side hustle, B, see a little more of the country, but also I think the biggest aspect was to get you to go to a NASCAR race. Because I've been joking for so long, like, oh, we should just get you to go to a NASCAR race. Because, like, I don't know, it's just interesting because your perspective is always a great one to take away whenever I'm talking to you about NASCAR or motorsports, because you have an outsider perspective, but it's like very valuable to hear because really it's something that I don't think about because my brain doesn't turn off NASCAR. It's like how, like, you know, you could watch a race, you retain 25% of the race, which would be big. But me, I'm like listening to every word, saying the words before announcers sometimes, just like so into it.
Yeah. And I mean, for some context, I kind of grew up with someone who did like watch NASCAR, and I was somewhat familiar with it, but it wasn't until we started dating 4 years ago that like it just became like an everyday part of my life, you know, being with you, which is fine. You know, it's been a learning experience. I think over those 4 years, I've definitely learned a lot about the sport, and I've also like grown an appreciation for the sport. I don't know if I would necessarily be watching every race, you know, if you weren't here, but I might keep up with some of the headlines, see, you know, a race every now and then, just, you know, to see what's going on. But
yeah.
I definitely wouldn't consider myself an expert at all. And I'm glad I do have you here to like answer my very basic questions. I feel like they're basic questions sometimes, but then sometimes I do think that like I ask you a question that you don't really see coming, and then I feel good about it and try to, you know, I guess push your boundaries of like your opinions on certain things or like how certain things work because it's not abundantly clear to me, you know.
Yeah, and you know, I try to really think of everything with an open mind and try to think of everything through the three perspectives of the two sides and the truth, because there's obviously that and aspect when you're looking at the sport, because it's so broad and there's so many dominoes that are affected by one move, that you know, the more you watch it, the more you understand how big it is. And I like that you do ask me different questions. You push my thinking about it, and it's really good to see. It's like, you know, if I didn't have that, sometimes it wouldn't occur to me to think about certain things in the sport the way you do ask me to think about them. One thing, though, it's like always stuck in my head is like when one of the first times, like, I think you just saw me just like in the zone of like watching NASCAR in like college before we were even dating, and I'm just like in a lab by myself with like the projector on, and I had like the Talladega race on, and then you walked in and I think you had a group meeting, and I'm like, oh yeah, you want me to leave? And you're like, no, it's okay. And I'm just like, I have this race loud in this lab as I'm working on one computer, and this lab's like big enough to seat maybe, I don't know, 50 people. Mm-hmm. with all the workstations, and it's just a huge projector with this race on, and I'm just like shouting profanity a little bit too because of just how the calls are made and the race is going on, and you're just witnessing that. Always sticks out to me. Like, geez.
I mean, I think I remember that. You know, you do you, whatever helps you work, you know. I feel like actually I was like, you know, he's got the right idea coming in here and using these projectors. Like, no one else just uses them for, like, recreational use while they're working, really. You know, it's just, like, it's there whenever you're in a class and the teacher's presenting and stuff. But, like, it's a lot better than going home and watching it on, like, a, you know, 32-inch TV or something.
Yeah, it's like you get the nice projector. You get to watch it on, like, the Wi-Fi for the school. It's like, yeah, I'm, like, using my tuition to my advantage. Like, the only time I ever see anybody in those labs like doing anything with that equipment, like kind of for personal use within the parameters of using it, would be like the first week when freshmen were like bringing their game consoles into the labs and plugging them into the projectors. It's like that would stop because then they would just do it elsewhere. It was fine because then it was open season for me to just do whatever I wanted in the labs.
Yeah. So
it was kind of nice and a good way to be an introvert too, because then like people saw the NASCAR and then they would leave. So that was nice. But one funny thing, I always laugh because like I've spoke about how broad my perspective is. If I have to categorize your fandom, you would be categorized as the fan who is anybody but Kyle Busch. Yeah. It doesn't matter what race it is. If it's a truck or Xfinity or Cup race. If Kyle Busch won, to quote you sometimes, you felt like you've wasted your time watching that event. And it's not to diss that thought. It's not to say that you dislike Kyle Busch in that way. I think that just speaks kind of to the fandom of it that you've kind of gained, because you can get into it that much to care.
Yeah, because, you know, I was definitely a Junior fan. And whenever Junior left the sport, well, you know, left driving, I still enjoy watching him commentate. I think he does a great job. But once he stopped driving, I kind of lost that person that I was rooting for. And I still don't really have, like, that one person that's always like, yes, I want that person to win. I mean, there's some people I like that are, you know, favorites of mine, but you know, they're not necessarily always, you know, in the top, like, 5 drivers that are, like, constantly winning. So it's not that I don't think that they can win. It's just that, you know, Junior was, like, always so competitive. And I just, no matter what race it would be, I would always think that he had a chance, right? And I think that once he stopped racing, it took me a while, but I kind of replaced, like, the drive that I had for him to win with the drive that I have now for Kyle Busch to lose. And, it's sometimes I think that it's a little unfounded because, he hasn't really done anything that's upset me recently. I kind of feel bad. I feel bad for his team. I know it's a whole team effort. It's not just Kyle Busch that's affected whenever he loses and stuff, and that's not lost on me. But I think, with any sport, you've got your person or your team or whoever it is that you're rooting for, and then, someone's got to lose at the end of the day. So I don't feel that bad about it whenever Kyle Busch loses. And it's just, I love to hate him. You know what I mean? And I think that there's a lot of people out there with that mentality. And I think he kind of embraces it. He knows he's got a lot of haters out there and he accepts it. And I admire that. It's not like he's trying to prove anybody otherwise. He's just doing him. So
exactly. It's like, it's funny because we always kind of relate those wrestling personas. He accepts he's a heel. He doesn't care, to put it in other context, to wear that black hat, kind of, and be that bad guy, more or less, in the eyes of the fans. I mean, a lot of drivers have worn that hat. I mean, even drivers that have had success, kind of like he has had, wear that hat. Dale Earnhardt did have that hat for quite some time. People didn't like Richard Petty when he won a lot. I mean, Darrell Waltrip won a lot, and they really didn't like him. Jeff Gordon won a lot, and they didn't like him either. I mean, it goes on and on. Kind of every generation has that driver. And I think, even to that point, to see that happening in real time, for me, like, I just respect it. Like, it just, I like to see it happen because we should be thankful for it happening because, it doesn't happen every generation. So, at least I always get a kick out of it, but you get to get that passion. And it's funny that happens.
And I don't like it when he loses miserably. I like it when he's being competitive and then he loses because as soon as he's out of a race, like he got wrecked or something and he's down for the count and he's definitely not going to win, then I kind of lose some of my investment in the race because, like I said, I don't have a favorite driver, really. It's literally anybody but Kyle Busch most of the time. And once he's out, then it's well, anybody but Kyle Busch is going to win. Then my interest kind of wanes away a bit. I mean, good racing is good racing, and I can still kind of get into it, but it's kind of like your favorite driver is out. You know what I mean? Same kind of thing. So
yeah, the thinking of that, the favorite driver mentality, makes me think when I was a fan, in my teenage and child years, being a Jeff Gordon fan, when Jeff Gordon had a bad run, it would deter you from enjoying the entire race, where, as you move on and you grow, if you do grow with it and to learn more about the sport, you understand and move on from that and just enjoy the race as a whole. And yeah, it does make it more entertaining because, for example, to your point, a fan that doesn't like Kyle Busch might see that he's running away with it and having a great run and he's going to win the race. But then it comes down to the last pit stop and something happens where it just slips away from him and they've missed that. They never got that context. They just know he lost. But to you see it, you kind of, like you said, you're invested to the point where you get to understand that. And it's more or less a part of the race and part of the storyline that entices you to continue to watch for the next one just because of that unpredictability. Yeah.
And, I think that's a great thing about watching a race with you is the fact that, if Kyle Busch is down and out for the count and we're just watching the race together and it's everybody else racing, then you always give me more context because I'm very story driven, I think, with the drivers, right? I like a feel good story. I like the drivers who really seem like they appreciate it when they win. I don't really like it whenever, a driver's oh, another one in the books, let's just move on kind of thing. I really like to see that kind of feel-good story. And I think that a lot of the times, whenever you're telling me about the drivers that are, up in the lead, if there's, an underdog that you're rooting for, you always kind of mention that. And I think that, really kind of gets my interest because, I'm more emotionally driven than anything else, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's another strong point too, because the stories you've mentioned drive home the investment to watch the program. You don't really invest too much in the Xfinity and Truck Series. It's a lot of other drivers, a lot of other storylines, great storylines. But the thing is, there's a lot to consume there, and then you have also another 38 Cup storylines, like I've been telling you about. I mean, you even know about people like Timmy Hill. Timmy, I mean, and most people who are casual viewers or friends with aggressive viewers might not even know those drivers. They can barely keep up with Jimmy Johnson's last season, or like Kevin Harvick, still doing his thing, and Tony Stewart's retired. What? And like you said, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s not there anymore, but he's kind of still is because he's an announcer. It's like all those storylines too wrapped up along with the on-track storylines. It can be very overwhelming for people, but it's great that you obviously look for the storyline, because I think that's really important to see in the sport. There's a lot of stories from first to 38th, and every race is different, and it doesn't matter what you see on the statistic sheet. It doesn't really give you the entire story unless you understand that individual, where they've come from, the team, and the circumstances.
Yeah, exactly. Like someone could be just super pumped that they got a top 15 and, walk away from a race feeling like they did amazing, their team did amazing, and, it was a great race. And then someone could have got a top 5 and be pissed about it, and it's because of the individual circumstances that kind of contribute to those emotions, and also the reoccurrence of those placements and stuff, because not everyone's finishing in the top 15 every race. A lot of the times people are finishing in the back, and whenever they kind of break that threshold, it just means like that much more to them. And I love like seeing reactions like that are like super grateful for like a good run, and kind of achieving what they wanted to, or even achieving like slightly more, and it's
yeah. I think a couple that have stood out most recently was that Matty D reaction after Talladega. I wish you would have seen the after Bristol one, because I was so invested in that race. You weren't there, and that was like one of those races like we didn't watch together, but just like to see that emotion again for me, like it was just like, oh, not again. Because like even the week before he finished second, and I knew it was going to be the same thing, but like when you saw it, I know it probably like more it really resonated with you more about the character and the empathy behind the driver, because we all know Matty D is like the personality, he's like the buff guy, the burrito, people's champ, all these other like cute nicknames, and he's really social about it. But like that was another piece of that puzzle, I think, to see that for you.
Yeah, I mean, I know you always root for him whenever you see him doing well, and I totally get why, because like just the amount of passion. I mean, all the drivers have passion, right? But like you can see how hungry he is for a win. And to your point about people loving to hate certain drivers because they're constantly winning over and over and over again. It's like you want to see these people who don't win, and you want to see them like get that goal. And I mean, they don't have to win every single week, but like, man, one time would be really nice. And it just, whenever they come close, it's just so hard because how much they want it. And that, even though they finish well, sometimes they might finish second or third, like it's still not first. And it's heartbreaking a bit.
Yeah, it's like how we watched In the Blink of an Eye, and you learn that perspective about Michael Waltrip. And so many people who are fans nowadays never knew that about Michael. Just never, like even fans that grew up in my time, like who were my age, young like fans when we were watching, we all knew Michael Waltrip as 2-time Daytona 500 champion. It wasn't 400 something and and that's a big thing to weigh on somebody, and then to finally break through and to win, it's validating to them. So it'd be great to see that more we've been seeing it more. I think one feel good one was Kurt Busch. Obviously, that was a good one.
Mm-hmm. That was good.
It was good to see that. And in this race that we went to, you got to see a different winner. You got to see someone who was interesting as far as like a fan favorite. So we'll get into that once we like dive into the race a little more as far as like the whole experience. But the first part obviously starts with like getting tickets. Mm. So like we got those super late. That was a super impulse like buy on my part, like late night. I think we were still in Tennessee when I purchased them. And it's interesting how I explain to you the justification for why you get specific tickets for NASCAR races and where you should sit, and especially for this track because it was like the road course. So a lot of different perspectives and different points of the track for sure to kind of see. But another aspect of it was all in an oval. So it wasn't like a traditional road course where, you know, the next turn is like a mile away. Everything was in a mile and a half enclosed oval with a circuit. So you kind of never really had a bad seat, but the bad seats were definitely up towards the fence line. And we didn't sit up towards the fence line. In fact, we sat out of the sunlight. We sat so high up. We were like underneath the suites.
Yeah, those were literally the best seats, honestly. Oh, yeah. I wouldn't have wanted to sat anywhere else. And it was so hot that day. It was so hot. And the seats that we got, they were, number one, they were like cheap seats, right? Like they were probably the cheapest. Cheaper. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they definitely weren't like the more expensive ones. No. But like they were out of the sun, like, you know, nice and shady. They were far up so you could see the entire thing. Like A+. If we ever go back there as fans and watch another race, like that's where we're sitting.
Noted. All right, we'll jump back into the podcast in just a moment. But first, how about a quick word from our partners at blue-emu? Now, that word is pod. Now, you might be thinking, pod, that's short for podcast, right? No, I'm talking about this pod. This pod is a pod of relief, because this is a blue-emu recovery bath pod. All you need is a warm bath to unlock the maximum relief potentials in this little pod. So next time, if you're looking to draw up a nice warm bath to soothe your tired muscles and joints, try using a blue-emu recovery bath. Now let's get back to the podcast. That was refreshing. So we got our tickets and that was all fine and dandy, which was great. So we go to the race, get parked. Parking was interesting because Charlotte had the parking lots like across the street from the Speedway, like literally a crosswalk away. It was pretty convenient. It was nice. And then we went into what is called the Midway, which is the fan experience section outside of the track with vendors, interaction set up. At the time, I believe there were a couple of driver meet and greets that were going on at the manufacturer booths.
I got to see Kyle Busch in person.
You finally did. It was really funny because like I had to like really ensure you to not boo him when you saw him.
Yeah, you kept thinking I was gonna like heckle him or something. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. Like, number one, like I don't know who's standing around me. There seemed to be a lot of Kyle Busch fans around me at that time. I'm not dumb, okay? Number two, I wouldn't like heckle someone in general, especially someone, okay, like I don't want Kyle Busch to win, but like, you know, I don't know him personally. Like, he's never done anything to me personally. Like, I'm not gonna, like, shout things at him, alright?
So you're not gonna be, like, in that, addicts group from Half-Baked where they're like, boo this man! Boo!
No. There's far more people in this world that deserve an actual boo than like people who are just athletes.
Yeah, that's true. Well, just hating on them just because they're good. But yeah, he was at his Toyota stage. It was funny. We also saw his brother Kurt at the Chevy stage, which was kind of nice as well. It's really interesting because to mention how hot it was that day, Kurt Busch is like wearing all black, and he just looks cool as a cucumber. Though, like, I know he sweats so much when he drives. Like, that's why I feel with him. Like, I sweat so much too. Like, I get it. But like, he was like not even sweating at that point. It was really hot.
Maybe like he's just so used to the extreme heat of being in a car that just like being outside of a car is fine.
Yeah, it's very true. Okay, so once we had our fun with, checking out the driver experiences, we walked around the Midway a little more, and there wasn't really much going on other than this like Air Force like engagement exhibition thing, which I don't know, that wasn't really for us. Definitely we're not looking to join the United States Air Force. No. So weren't interested in that. And then there was this Monster Energy like, I don't really know what it was, but people were basically walking through this like Monster Energy exhibition thing, and as they walked through they would just get like a free Monster. So I'm pretty sure that's what they were doing it for. Like, oh man, I need that low carb Monster. I need that morning shot Monster right now. But so once that was over and we saw those things, I made an executive decision to spend more money on more tickets, more or less. So we got 2 of the infield pit passes that were like the pre-race passes to go look at the concert that was in the tribal area, and then you could walk up and down pit road and see the pit crews. And to me, I thought that was the most worthwhile thing to try to get for you to see, because the Midway was just so bland and it was really disappointing.
Yeah, I don't remember much from the Midway besides the fact that I saw Kyle Busch. I actually forgot we saw Kurt Busch. The Kyle Busch is the only person that really stood out to me for obvious reasons.
Oh yeah.
So I definitely remember a lot more from being on pit road. So I definitely think that that those tickets were, I don't know, more valuable to me. I mean, they were pretty pricey. I don't know if like I would have paid that price had I been the one like making those decisions, but like all in all, it was a good experience, and I liked that portion of the pre-race experience. So
yeah, as a fan, I gotta say, it's just not worth it to be spending so much money.
Yeah, and I don't know, and maybe are they always that expensive? Because I know, obviously, we like got there and purchased them. It's not like we did it ahead of time. That could have definitely added to the overall price point. But like, do the prices fluctuate depending on, whether or not you get them early, or are they always kind of like the standard price?
I'm pretty sure like whoever works for Charlotte Motor Speedway will roast me and correct me with like any other specifics. But from what I remember, there was a $20 increase from when we originally bought our tickets, which was the Thursday before the event, which was Sunday. Mm-hmm. And the Sunday of the race, morning of the race, when I actually purchased those infield like pre-race tickets. So that was a bit of an increase of $40 overall, but still, I mean, normally it's like an $80 ticket. And to me, I don't think that $80 is always justified. It was like when I was a kid, when I was a teenager and my stepdad got me the tickets to go to the Coke Zero 400 weekend. Every day to have like the fan zone access was $80 a day. Mm-hmm. And to get a ticket was sometimes anywhere from like $65 to $100. Mm. So you have to get basically a second ticket now to go to the infield. And to me, it never justified the reason to go to my seat. I would just stay in the infield the whole time and just watch from atop the garages. So I don't know. It's really weird. I just don't see the value every time to do that. It's just, to me, it's just another way to like nickel and dime the fan goers from the track. And the track maybe could give me more perspective on it, because I don't want to like have a sour taste about it and not really understand the entire the picture. But
yeah, it was a good experience. But like I do think like for a lot of people, it is an experience that might not be obtainable to them because of the price point, which is unfortunate. I mean, I get the fact that it needs to be somewhat exclusive because, you know, like the drivers are coming up and they don't want like the crowd to be too crazy or too big. You know, they can't give everyone that access to seeing the drivers like, you know, front and center. I mean, you see some of the drivers like the midway, right? That's what it's called.
Yeah.
The midway, you know, during those meet and greets and stuff. But like those are like scheduled out. And also they get pretty packed too. So I think you get a lot closer whenever you do have those like pit passes that we had. And you can just kind of weasel your way like in certain spots, which is kind of cool. So I get the need for the exclusivity, but at the same time, like I do feel bad for like the people that can't necessarily afford it, especially if you have a big family. Like if you are bringing more than 2 people to a race, like if you've got kids, that's just so much more money that you have to spend. And like, you know, it's an experience that those kids are gonna like seriously love if they get to do it. Like there were some kids there. They like were having a fun time, you know?
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's just, you know, wish more fans could kind of get that. But
yeah, it's a double-edged sword. I do wish, but then also when I'm working, I'm like, get out of my way.
Yeah.
No offense to certain fans.
I did kind of feel bad for like the pit crew people that were like trying to set things up and probably get in the zone. I see one guy was like doing yoga. That was
I got him on video too.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I mean, I can only imagine kind of like the level of distraction that must be going on. I mean, they're used to distraction. It's a very loud, chaotic, like, sport to be in general. So I'm sure they can tune it out. But, like, I'm sure it doesn't help get them in the mood, you know, to start.
No, I can tell that, like, some of those guys, they're really either disciplined in what they do or they just, like, have that group mentality to stick together and kind of, like, shut out the outside world. You did mention weaseling around. I think you also got to experience how the heck I can always just, you know, find a way to meet somebody firsthand. Where was it? We went behind the stage, I believe, where driver intros were. And you couldn't really get behind the stage because, like you said, they actually had that area blocked off. And it was packed full of VIPs, people working, media, as well as the drivers that were all getting ready for driver intros. But we were like in between like the pit wall and some pit boxes. Luckily it was one of the back marker teams. I don't really remember which one, but luckily everyone was cool with like the fans standing there because there was a group of fans standing there, and we got to see Rutledge Wood doing his thing with the man Mario Andretti. That was pretty cool. I never got you don't think that you'd meet Mario Andretti in life. That was kind of cool.
Yeah,
super personable guy.
Even as somebody who's like not very versed in motorsports and whatnot, like that's a very recognizable name, like very recognizable guy, like definitely like legend.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. And you got your picture with them, right?
Yeah, you were nice enough to take the picture. So I don't like to do that often, but I was just like, I really don't ever see myself doing this again. Ever.
There's certain people that I think it's like, come on, how can you not?
And I think what's cool is he was at a NASCAR race. You know, Mario has a lot of different things he could be doing, and he's at a NASCAR race just doing his thing and enjoying life.
And he was like super chill with the fans too. I mean, he knew like everyone wanted his picture. You know, they wanted to say hi and meet him and stuff, and like that's. Yeah. It's not like you're coming up to him like during, dinner or something at a restaurant. That'd be weird. But
and that's something people should always understand too. There is a time and place. And even in these scenarios, sometimes it's not the time or place because a lot of drivers don't like to be bothered. And that's something we noticed too. I think one of the funniest interactions is, it just always stood out in my mind on Kevin Harvick. Like some fan tried. I hate when fans always yell at drivers. You never yell at a driver. Don't shout their name from far away. If they're not within arm reach of you, don't try. It's like very just disrespectful. But this guy, like, shouting, Harvick, I came all the way from Bakersfield. Come see you race. I think he had like a William Byron or Chase Elliott hat on or something like that. And Harvick's commented to the extent of, you came over all the way from Bakersfield and you wore the wrong hat. And then everyone was just like, oh, like Harvick dissed that guy. And he just kept walking and going into driver intros. I'm like, that's a man who's been here, done that. He's heard 1,000,001 excuses. He doesn't need to hear yours today.
Yeah.
That was beautiful. Bubba Wallace was kind of cool though, because he was... That was weird for me to get an autograph because I don't do that. But I was just like, oh, let him sign my lens cap. But respect for him doing that, because he did that in the correct way, and that's the only way I'd like to get an autograph. Is like you said, we were surrounded by a bunch of children around us, and there were some families with their kids, and obviously the parents put the kids up front. And I didn't really try to like interact with any drivers. I actually tried to like get photos and kind of videos of just them interacting with the fans. And then Bubba came, and I just wanted him to sign my lens cap, and I waited until everyone got their stuff signed. Then he came back, he looked at me, and then he signed it. And that to me is like the best kind of autograph, because then you knew as a fan you just did it right. You let everybody else get their thing. Drivers saw that you were patient and they had the time and they respected that and they signed your thing. And I've had that happen a couple times, and it does stick with you. And obviously I don't go to the track to get an autograph. I don't want that anymore. That autograph's gone.
Yeah, I figured
it's
it would
well
wipe
gone.
off.
Oh yeah, I knew it was. I was just like, well, this is going to be a cool little thing for the moment, and it was. But that was kind of cool because he respected the fact that it was a Sony camera that I was using, I think. So
Nice.
that was nice, yeah. We got to see a bunch of cool people though during that like interaction area, so that was really cool. Then I think one major aspect as we went into the fan like stands area, we got to go like up through the front straightaway, go up into our seats, get really high up there. All I can remember at that point when we got to our seats was I was just hot and like kind of sunburnt a little bit.
Oh yeah.
It was so hot.
Yeah, I was really happy to be up there and sitting down, because I mean, even while we were down on the pit road, like you went off to go photograph, I don't know, lots of things. Because you like to be busy, right? During the race. You like to be busy during the race taking photos. You like to be busy before the race taking photos. That's what you do, you know? And it's the way that you're documenting your experience and just kind of like seeing everything through the lens of the camera, which is great. But I'm over here like...
dying on pit wall.
You know, I was having a fun time, but at the same time, you know, there's only so much to see at a certain point, and I was just like on the wall, like, oh god, it's so hot. It was blistering, and I can only imagine what it's like wearing a fire suit out there. It must be insane, because I was wearing shorts, so... I was very relieved when we did get to our seats and finally sat down in the shade. I was very thirsty. I don't hydrate the best, as you know, in general, but I'm sure I drank a lot of water that day just because of like how hot I was and how much like I was sweating. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good thing to note, is that we did pack our snacks, and that was like one of the best things I kept mentioning to you is BYOB, and I mean BYOB as is like bring anything you want. Like we had nice cuts of cheese, we had variety of meats, nice canned wines.
Yeah, we had some
water,
like, bougie.
We were like Churchill Downs of a NASCAR race. We were living the best life.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed that because, you know, I don't always want to drink a Busch beer.
Yeah.
I want to enjoy like, you know, something nicer when I'm at the track.
Yeah, and I don't like beer. So,
Yeah,
I
no.
mean, the wine was great. It's just, you know, just like juice, man. So It was really good. And then, just water on top of that, and it was a good time,
In the shade also, because we're up there in the nice area, and there was a nice breeze too, kind of coming up at that level of the grandstands, and we got to see the entire track. Got to witness like that nice little chicane area. We're closer towards that than the actual like start finish line. We're kind of like in between those two sections. But it was nice that we got to see like that action plus the NASCAR corners, and then you get to see the infield going on. There was a little bit of chaos happening everywhere. I think the biggest moment obviously was that restart when Chase Elliott missed the turn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever I watch races, and this, extends to races we're just watching at home, I don't always remember the race very well. If someone wins and it's a feel-good story, I'll probably remember that aspect, but just different like technical parts of the race, I don't really retain for some reason. But I do remember that very clearly because I was like, oh no.
I think I remember just saying, "You played yourself."
Yeah.
Just like, oh man. And then then it was interesting too, because talk about storylines. Then the storyline came to basically be around, can he make up for this? Can he like bounce back? Because at that point he had like one of the more dominant cars in that race. So it was kind of interesting to see him fight from the back and battle his way towards the front. But, it's interesting because in this kind of race with like a road course, there's always comers and goers. So it's like a variety of people that's like leading or, cycling through the field. So it's not the stagnant, same constant couple of people up at the front. I think that added a little to the value as well.
Yeah. And, I like Chase Elliott. And this kind of goes back to how I don't have one particular driver that I'm rooting for. And I feel like I've been trying ever since Junior stopped racing. I've been trying to find my driver. Like, it just makes me more invested when I have a driver that I am rooting for. And so I've been trying to find a driver that I can consistently root for. And I've gone through a couple. Like, I'll like a driver for a while, and then, I don't know, if they'll just do something or say something, and I'm just like, that rubbed me the wrong way. And then I'm not a huge fan anymore, And I know Junior went through his rebellious phase, back in the day. Yeah. But, I never was an avid fan during that time anyways, but whenever I think we watched one season together, and it was Junior's last season. I think that was the first year we were together and we were watching it and stuff, and I just always thought Junior was just such a good person, and I really look for that in a driver. And so I've kind of been bouncing around from driver to driver to kind of find my driver that I like watching. And so far, I do like Chase Elliott. I don't know if he's my favorite. I wouldn't say that. But he hasn't said or done anything that's rubbed me the wrong way yet. So I'm still if he's doing well, I'm yeah, Chase Elliott's doing well. So I was glad to see him fighting through and coming back. And I was rooting for him to come back because of that.
Yeah, and obviously, spoiler alert, he does come back and he wins the race. He does that cool burnout kind of in front of the Tom's Heartburn turn. I believe that's what they branded it as, that race. Good branding. But he does that burnout right where he hit the wall just as a statement towards that. I mean, he got very, very lucky that he was able to stop kind of in the manner that he did to not cause that much damage to the front of his car, because that could have been very big. Yeah, could have ended his race. I thought it did, but once he started to come back and then he had the fastest car on the track, I was I guess it just needed to hurt a little more to
and I think that really kind of, I don't know, gave that race something interesting too, because if just looking at the way he hit it and, how far back it set him, I just assumed. I was like, oh, well, he's not going to win.
Yeah.
So seeing him come back and fight for that win and, you know, actually get it, like, was pretty entertaining. Regardless of, you know, whether you're a Chase Elliott fan or not, I think it would have been entertaining. So,
I mean, you had a very entertaining first race. I mean, my first race, I had to witness heartbreak when Regan Smith didn't win because, you know, he went below the double yellow line and Tony Stewart won. NASCAR just... No. I mean, you had a very good feel-good story to go along with it. And then obviously the whole playoff implications that I don't even remember really. that kind of comes and goes. That doesn't really stand as much as like the lasting impact of Chase Elliott having to come back and fight that adversity throughout that race. Alex Bowman too, like he was very fast towards the end. Just didn't have the track position to catch Chase.
I'm trying to remember where Kyle Busch finished, and I think I remember him doing something funny.
He went backwards up pit road.
That's right. Yeah.
And all I could say was like, man, NASCAR's not going to be happy about that.
And I was happy. I was happy that he did that because I'm like, yes, that just like it checked my box of like Kyle Busch doing something just like Kyle Busch.
Yeah,
you know?
He had a very frustrating weekend from what I remember, and I think he had an incident in like the first turn. There was like a pile up or something, and he was involved, and he was just so frustrated that he was. Because I think they were going to throw a red flag and they had to stop the field. He's like, forget it. And he just like went backwards up pit road and just pulled into the garage area just to say, I'm done. I'm getting out of this car. I'm at it. Load it up onto the trailer, please. Let's go to the next race.
Yeah.
But, you know, like you said, you got to kind of see that emotion out of Kyle, which is, you know, that like adds to it. Yeah, you know, it's better to see that than to see a dull Kyle Busch at the race. Because then, you know, for Kyle, it's like he didn't even try if he didn't have an emotion after it, you know? So for him, it just adds to it. You know...
I think that's why, like, this year it's been not as gratifying. I mean, because he's had a rough year,
Very rough year.
And you know, whenever he wouldn't win races before, like, we'd always be like, oh, they're interviewing Kyle Busch. What's he going to say? But, you know, lately, I feel like he's just kind of been really defeated. And, I mean, you know, you feel bad for him. Like, I don't want him to win, but, like, I still feel bad for him. Because you see the defeat and the frustration and stuff. And he's not as sassy, you know, as he normally is. And then it's like, well, come on. It takes the fun out of it.
Yeah, he I think it's that cocky confidence, more or less, that drivers have. He just doesn't have that edge just because he hasn't had that success to give him that confidence. So I don't know how that will go for him this year. But moving forward, I would say the biggest disappointment about that race is I just didn't have a long lens for my camera. I was so frustrated with that because I would have got really good photos, especially of that like last corner section where like they had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle painted part. Like I would have got really good photos of that, but just didn't have anything larger than a 150.
I mean, I'm sure you had larger equipment than most, if not all of the other fans there. So
yeah, that just makes me think back to when I went to Talladega in like 2018 and I had like my 150 to 600 Tamron on my shoulder and everyone was just getting out of my way like, oh, this media guy right here needs to take photos. I'm like, dude, I just bought a ticket. You see me wearing a vest? I'm just walking around with this, you know, telescope with the camera on it, you know? So that's a good point. And then leaving the race, it was nice too, because then we got to, we did go to them before the race, but then we tried to take a little more advantage after the race. Was like the whole flea market section that was going on outside of the track, you know?
Yeah.
Because we weren't really buzzed because we were really trying to make sure we were hydrated because of how hot it was.
Yeah, I can't really drink a lot of alcohol if like I'm in a setting where I'm hot.
No, yeah.
I'll get sick. So definitely we're totally fine.
Yeah, we had a good amount of water with us, so like we were just like, you know, walking around and just like kind of taking in the events and everything. And it was really nice. I think I got like some merch from the Midway, which It's kind of cool because like I don't really get to buy merch that's new that much. So
Yeah, you got a shirt.
yeah, I got it. I think it was the Adam Petty Bubba Wallace throwback shirt, and I was like, that's cool because like it's just a cool like mementos piece to that moment in time when they did that throwback. So I thought that was cool. And then we went into like the flea market section of the Midway again, and there was some interesting stuff there. I mean, obviously they have the massive array of political apparel. They've always had that. Like even when I was a kid, I remember like, you know, Bush Cheney, like all that stuff was there, and then you had like Obama and McCain stuff too. When I went to a race, it was like a bunch there, and then so they had like stuff like that for sale, like, you know, political stuff. But then they also had like, you know, all that classic flea market knockoff stuff, like the Chevy flag, the Ford flag with the camo, or like the branded whatever flag that's like copyrighted logo that someone just took and mass produced things.
Yeah.
And then you keep going further back, then there's like the booths with nothing but die cast cars from like every like imaginable time period that die cast cars existed. All for the most random array of prices. Some were great deals, some were just like, are you kidding me? Others were just like, okay. It was really weird. We got Mark a die cast car he likes.
Yeah, so, I remember that.
Yeah, good thing we found him that Robbie Gordon car. That was a good deal. And we got a free poster out of that because the guy had like a bunch of stuff. So that was sometimes I wish I can go back to those places and with like $100 cash money and see what I can get.
Oh my god.
Probably like walk out with a lot of stuff, but
yeah, probably.
Yeah, I don't need to do that.
So I think like the more you buy, the more they throw in for free.
Oh,
just,
yeah.
Like because you bought stuff. So.
It's like because you bought stuff and it's like, oh, you're showing interest in this. No one else will. Here, just take it, please.
Yeah.
I've been to many a garage sale. Like that's why I try not to like tell people that I know about NASCAR or like what I'm buying, because then if they know, then they keep trying to give me more stuff because they're literally just trying to get rid of it at times, which is it's nice, but also I don't need that in my life. So, would you ever go to another race?
With you, yeah.
Oh, with me. You wouldn't. So you wouldn't go all bridesmaids with the girls in an RV, you know?
No. Probably not. The only thing is, like, I know you don't really like going to races as a fan, and I don't want you to, I don't know, feel like you have to, I don't know, be a fan because I'm there, you know, and you feel like limited in what you can do. So, I don't know. I had a fun time. I know you had a fun time too, but I also know that like being a fan isn't like your ideal race weekend experience, you know?
Not really. I mean, I wouldn't mind like, you know, halfway being a fan, but you really can't halfway be a fan. I don't want you to work with me though, because I feel like that would just kill.
Well, I don't want to work with you. No offense, but yeah.
You would hate me. You would hate me so much. You already hate the fact that I leave for the airport 10 minutes before my flight's supposed to depart.
You would probably stress me out a lot. So, I mean, it's either like being a fan or just not going. So
I think I'd stress you out more with the fact that you'd just be like, how do you keep going to all these places? And I just like keep running from place to place, because like to your point how you mentioned earlier when I was like kind of not really abandoned you for a few moments on pit road, but I left you alone. I went to a lot of different places looking back at my footage. I went like to the start finish line. I went into the pit of the concert. I like took a shot of like the pyrotechnics at the concert. Then I was in the grass. Then I came back and I saw you. I was like, I must have been gone for a good 20 minutes and I got all of this stuff. Like, okay.
I mean, I wouldn't mind going again. I feel like it would be better if it was like more than just you and me. Like if we had like other friends that we were going with. If I had somebody that would also just like hang out with me while you're off doing things, then I think it would be a little better. But I mean, I was just kind of like dying in the heat, waiting for you to get back so we could go back to our seats, which is, I wasn't not having a good time. It was just, you know, I knew you wanted to do that stuff. So just, you know, let you go do it.
Yeah, it's okay.
But you know what track I would want to go to, though?
What's that?
Wait, no, I want you to guess.
Oh. Talladega?
No. Well, maybe, but that's not the one I'm thinking of.
It's an oval?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know?
I don't know. I don't know.
Watkins Glen?
I literally have one reason for wanting to go there. And it is food related.
Oh, you got me now.
Martinsville.
Oh, honey, I'm sorry. But, when I was at the Daytona 500, they had Martinsville hot dogs, and they were just not good.
But you didn't have it in Martinsville, though.
No, but here's the thing. You can have a Chicago pizza outside of Chicago, and it could be a bad Chicago-style pizza, and now your whole representation of Chicago-style pizzas has been tarnished.
Mm-hmm.
So, to the people at Martinsville, Speedway who brought those hot dogs to Daytona International Speedway, shame on you. Shame. You have destroyed what I could have wanted. Also, Mark can't have them because he's allergic to onions. Like the Jesse Jones hot dog has onions on it. It's actually, I can see how it's good.
You can probably get it without, right?
Probably, I think.
Is it just not authentic at that point?
I think it's a bit of you need the authentic flavor of
just how it comes without any sort of alteration.
Yeah, I'd like to try them again. I don't know, the bun just was not good at all, and the hot dog itself was weird. I tried to eat 2. I think I only got 1.5 done.
See, I like a nice quality hot dog. I love chili dogs. And I just really want to try it. I want to know. Every time we watch a race at Martinsville and they talk about those hot dogs, I want to know what it is that they're talking about and why they hype them up so much. And, if they're terrible, then I know that they're just, it's unfounded praise. And I'm at peace with that. But, I just want to try it.
Yeah, it's funny because technically our sponsor, blue-emu, could help you out with that experience. I mean, come on, blue-emu. I mean, she just wants a Martinsville hot dog. If you got some access to Martinsville, hook a sister up. I mean, she just wants a hot dog.
Just want a hot dog, man.
That would break keto too. I broke keto with my hot dog.
Worth it.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing too. Teams they go all out with those hot dogs. You can't just have one. They try to have records to see who eats the most in a weekend. So are you gonna stop at one hot dog? Are you gonna have 2 or?
Okay, I mean, I will probably eat as many as it takes to be full, but I'm not gonna go past that. Not gonna enter a hot dog eating contest. That sounds terrible.
No, you just keep track during the weekend. Mm-hmm. Now here's another question too. I think this is obviously something I'd have to learn once you go to Martinsville. But where do you get them? Is it? I thought there was one hot dog stand and it's in the infield, but I guess there must be more. Mm. But I want to
go to the guy who's been there from the very beginning making the hot dogs.
Yeah, I'm with you because I feel the person who made the ones for Daytona was the intern.
Yeah, or any good thing that becomes just capitalized on. It started off with something with substance and something that was wholesome and pure, and then capitalism just got to it, and just the quality goes down. Yeah. I want to know, if I go to the source, is it still what it was? Is it still that thing that captivated people and really brought that association to the track and whatnot? Because honestly, like I said, I don't know what kind of track Martinsville is. I really have no idea. I can't picture it in my head. No clue. All I know is that they've got hot dogs, and that's all they talk about whenever they go to Martinsville. And it makes me want one of their hot dogs.
Looks like a paperclip. Like literally, if you took a paperclip and you looked at it, that's Martinsville.
Well, I know.
They call it that. I've referred to it as that. It's okay.
I can't keep track. All I'm retaining is hot dogs.
Yeah, not only that, yeah, exactly. See, it's like 36 36 races at 20 some odd tracks, but like at least you can retain that.
Yeah.
One insight.
I know one of the tracks looks like one of those tater tots because you made an Instagram post about it.
Exactly. It's Pocono, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a tater tot. That's a good one.
See, all of what I retain is just food related, apparently.
And Talladega is where Ricky Bobby's from, right?
Yes,
exactly. Yeah, and you can go to Applebee's, except you find a whole rat in your Cobb salad.
Yep.
So you would want to go back, but you would want to go with some friends. It seems like Martinsville is a good one. I'd love to go to Martinsville.
Wait, what state is Martinsville in?
It's in Virginia.
Okay. Well, we'll be close to Virginia at some point.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing is, it's like, you know, when you look back at kind of like the geographical like outline of a lot of the tracks in the Southeast, they're like really close together. They've always kind of been in this like hub, so like it's not that far to drive from Charlotte to Martinsville, Virginia. It's not far to go to Richmond, Virginia, or towards there goes the only Virginia tracks. Go to Bristol, Tennessee. You know, it's not too far to go to all those places because they're all kind of like in a nice little hub. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the irony in all of this is the fact that when we went last year, we had no idea that literally months later I would get like a job in Charlotte and we would be moving there. You know, it was such a spontaneous decision to go to that race there, and it was the first time I've ever even been to Charlotte. I guess not only because we've been one other time. Well, I've been one other time, you know, moving our stuff up there, basically.
Yeah.
But it's just so crazy, I think, that we were there and before we even knew any of that was going to happen. But I love the like idea of the proximity to so many places and so many things, because being in Florida, like, you know, we were talking about how hard it is to just drive out of this state from where we're at right now. And, you know, I'm born and raised in Florida, and it's, you know, near and dear to my heart, but, like, super excited to, like, you know, get out there and see more of that area.
Yeah, especially see areas with elevation, too, because even on the drive up, it's just beautiful to see. Sketchy, because, you know, when you're driving down the road that says, rocks may fall. It's like, oh, okay, let's get off this road immediately. Mm-hmm. But it's so beautiful to see kind of how nature has carved out this beautiful landscape around there, especially the mountain ranges. And I think that was nice, too, because definitely that trip was like low-key a reconnaissance trip to kind of like look at some possible areas that we liked. I mean, Nashville was really great. I liked it, but I don't know. It just didn't have that vibe for Charlotte. I don't know. It could be like how you say, I have this like motorsports thing that I always like to just try to endeavor. Obviously, Concord, Morrisville is like, you know, racing capital USA, but you know, it's just interesting how it kind of comes full circle. But we haven't been back to that one place for the Hush Puppies that they told us to go to, where like they had all the NASCAR like sheet metal on the wall. Totally forgot that. It's by JRM, the barbecue place.
That place was so cute. Oh, like, it was so kitschy and amazing.
It made me think of the pit stop from the movie Talladega Nights, that restaurant where they like have like their little scuffle with Ricky and Jacques,
where he's like telling them to say that he likes crepes. Yeah. Like
they had all the gaudy NASCAR memorabilia on the walls and stuff, and it seems like they would serve the same food. No, actually, they serve probably better food at the restaurant that exists in real life. But yeah, I just find that kind of funny that something like that really exists in real life. I definitely geeked out at that place. I was like, oh, look, it's that car. It's that car.
It was so cute. Like, yeah, it was super cheesy, like super over the top, like NASCAR. But like,
even the bathrooms. Ugh.
Yeah, but we were in Charlotte for 2 nights, 1 full day, I think, because we had gotten there, stayed the night. That was the race, and then we left that next morning or something. And basically the entire purpose of us being there was for the race. And I feel like eating at that restaurant, there's nowhere else I would have rather have gone. I mean, we did get some really good ramen.
Amazing ramen, yeah.
But, like, I am also glad that we did go to that, like, really kitschy NASCAR restaurant because, like, it was the point, It was like, that's kind of the thing about road trips, especially like really impromptu, like decisions to go to certain places and just kind of the spontaneity of it. Cause I am definitely a planner in terms of like, vacations that we take. There are certain like places I'm like, okay, this is on the list. I'm not like an hour by hour planner, but I think having those more spontaneous like places, it just kind of works out,
Oh yeah, it does. And I think to that point, we were on a road trip. We definitely like had more disposable time on our hands, and we could have been a little more spontaneous like we were. And we were very spontaneous on that trip, but I think it was a good trip to have, and it's good to like be able to do those things. I mean, right now we can't, and it's a bummer. But, think about it, maybe about this time next year, for sure, we can definitely be doing things like this again and being more carefree with travel plans and being able to be more of a looky-loo instead of, having a direct path and just getting your things and going. So, and that's a big thing. It's going to be a while, too, before, a lot of these things are open again at the track the way that they were for us when we went. Maybe by that time, though, it'd be great to see things open up and maybe finally get that Martinsville hot dog with the girlfriends too. Yeah. Well, thanks for joining me on the podcast. I really do appreciate that, honey.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, of course.
It was a fun time. I always like talking to you about NASCAR and things, and thank you for humoring me with a lot of my questions that I always have regarding things. No
problem. Thank you for listening. Because you could just tune me out at any point. Like, listeners will probably tune us out now as I tell you about our sponsor, blue-emu. That's right. We are sponsored proudly by blue-emu. And one of their proud products that I think Mark and I can both easily endorse is the blue-emu recovery baths. Now these are like little bombs essentially that are extremely powerful smelling. I mean, they smell like menthol. You've smelled it a couple times when I've used them. The aroma erupts in the bathroom, but I think that's a positive point because that really is an effective way to showcase that, man, this product's working. Because like you can smell what's in it as it's working, but it's pretty great. I enjoyed it because it's just good to have it after a long day when you just want to recover. You want to like take not only just a bath, that warm water to really soothe the muscles, but to take it and take an extra step with it. So I feel like that's a really good tool to add to the bath. So people should try the blue-emu recovery bath. It's available at Walmart. Hopefully next week Mark will be back. He's a busy boy.
I mean, I can always fill in.
Yeah.
I mean, I look just like him, so no one really is going to be able to tell.
Oh, no. I think that's the one thing he really gets annoyed with when he comes here. He's just like, man, sometimes James grabs me like Kaylynn because I look just like him. Look just like her, and he'll grab me on my hips and everything, and I'm like...
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Whisper in his ear, hey, honey, but like you don't have the hair is different.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Really. Now, boy, you two are bent over. I'm blind.
Oh, poor Mark.
That is this week's episode of Flashback to the Track. It's episode 56. Next week we'll probably be back with another race review. As always, I'm James. This is Kaylynn. Hopefully we'll be back at the track sometime soon in the future. But until then, be safe, keep calm, wear your mask, and wash your palms. Have a great night.